Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 19 of the Resistance Rundown, our weekly Star Wars show where we talk about everything in our favorite galaxy.
That's right.
Unsurprisingly, the first thing up is going to be some Star Wars news.
Oh, who would have ever thought it? Starting with some movie headlines, of course, as usual. We're going to hit on one thing for The Last Jedi, and then, of course, we'll move right into Solo. So our story concerning The Last Jedi is that per Star Wars Newsnet, the New Zealand iTunes store states The Last Jedi will be available for purchase on March 14th. There's no release date information yet on the US version of iTunes, but it's reasonable to assume that it would be around the same time, with digital hitting on the 14th and Blu-ray and home release being on the 27th. So, yep. And Alicia says, hello, beautiful people. Hello, Alicia.
Hello, Alicia.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. We super appreciate it.
This very special Valentine's Day.
I know, our Valentine's Day broadcast of the Resistance Rundown.
Red-ish. Well, we had BB-8 mugs, so that's kind of...
Yeah, sure, they're cute and adorable.
That's as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, that's what we're going to go with. I am dressed in all black, which, you know, there's that too. All right, so we're going to move right into Solo, a Star Wars story. Quite a few things to talk about here, thanks to all that coverage from Entertainment Weekly.
Yep.
The first is that we have another new poster for Solo, which features the same retro style as our previous posters from last week. But, of course, this time we have the whole cast included in the word Solo instead of just Alden Ehrenreich. It was leaked on Reddit earlier in the week and then confirmed by the Star Wars show that happened earlier today, dropped earlier today. So that is our new poster. Expect that in your local theater probably pretty soon, I would imagine, if not already there. So that's exciting.
That's right.
And with that, guys, just bear with us. We have a whole bunch of interview stuff from Entertainment Weekly. We're just going to kind of hit on some of that. The first is from an interview with Ron Howard, who, of course, ended up directing most of Solo, we're assuming at this point.
Yep.
He revealed in the interview that he was a little hesitant to step into the role of director on Solo. He commented, I know Chris and Phil. They're incredibly talented guys, and all anyone at Imagine Entertainment wants to do is find a way to work with Chris and Phil. and that's every bit as much the case today as ever. But when I learned that this change was happening, it just came in a moment where I was working on lots of new projects for Imagine and had not planned to direct anything last year. So then this came my way, and I was talking to Kathy and the now tragically late Allie Schirmer, an old friend. I was reluctant, but I began to feel that I could help. So this is how he ended up doing it. Wasn't really looking for it, had plenty of other stuff going on at the moment. And then he really talked about his experience on set. He talked about the fact that George Lucas and his wife ended up coming on set while he was there. Yep. Lucas just gave Ron a lot of encouragement, told him to trust his instincts and reassured him that he could direct this film and direct it well. And then they said that they ended up staying for a whole 5 hours on set, which was a lot longer than what was anticipated. And Lucas ended up giving a suggestion for a moment with Han on the Falcon. So ended up kind of having a little bit of director moment on the set.
That's cool.
Kathleen Kennedy talked about it too.
It's one of those things. Ron and George have known each other for a very long time.
Yeah, they worked on Willow together.
And that's been many, many years ago.
And then is American Graffiti? Is that the other thing they worked on?
I'm pretty sure Ron Howard is involved in that.
I think so. Not as director, but he was involved in that as well. Yeah. So Kathleen Kennedy commented on the encounter. She said, "It actually is a funny little bit that will probably get a laugh. And Ron happened to be by the monitor and not inside the Falcon, and he goes, 'Oh, that's a great idea,' and ran in and said, 'George wants us to do this.' So that was pretty cool. I think George felt pretty great about that. He could revisit these characters, and I think he felt so comfortable, obviously with Ron being there, that it was just fun for him." So, just some cool little tidbits about behind the scenes on Solo. And then, of course, the next question was, how much of the movie did you direct? And I thought it was really neat. Howard just said that he is not going to comment on that. He's not going to say how much. He made the comment that Lord and Miller's influence is still all over the picture and that he doesn't want fans to focus on who did what. Yeah. So. Well,
he's not wanting to get into that, honestly.
No. And get ready because you're still going to be asked it 5 billion times.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Definitely.
In addition to an interview with Ron Howard, we also had an interview with screenwriters Lawrence and Joe Kasdan about the Falcon's new look. And so screenwriter Joe Kasdan went into a little more detail about the state of the Falcon in the film. He says at the beginning, obviously the ship belongs to Lando, so it's no surprise it has a little more of a lavish feel to it, hence the bright white walls that we've been seeing in the trailer. And Kasdan said, where Han gave it a certain shabby coolness and a dinged up quality that reflected where he was at that point in his life, this Falcon reflects its owner very clearly in its shape and aesthetic and his needs, even if those needs are a little more space to entertain. So that sounds very Lando-ish, I do feel.
Definitely.
And then Alden Ehrenreich has also spoken previously about how it's safer in the galaxy to fly a ship that looks dingy and draws less attention because people tend to underestimate you and your capabilities. So that was pretty neat. And as for the closed nose design, we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. Thanks to some toys that we've been getting some leaked information on, which I'm pretty sure Hasbro is not thrilled about. But, there's always those things. They happen.
Indeed.
All right, well, along with that, we have some new character info for these new people that we're going to see in Solo. The first is that of Kira, played by Emilia Clarke, who is very well known, of course, from Game of Thrones. She didn't reveal too much, but she did reveal that the character of Kira has known Solo since they were kids and grew up as partners in crime. She commented that her character is a mystery, but definitely has a core of steel. That she's just trying to survive in an underworld filled with gamblers, smugglers, and all kinds of sordid and dangerous people. She's a tough character with many guises, and her journey is one of strength and survival. So definitely, I think what we're expecting to see as the character who is opposing Han in every way, his female counterpart here.
Absolutely.
We also had some more information on Lando, played by Donald Glover, who I think everyone in the world is looking forward to after his 2 seconds on screen. Everyone's flipping out.
Yes.
He shared that he did get to have some meetings with Billy D. Williams about his time playing the role. And Billy D. Williams' main advice was to just be charming. So that was what Glover intended to do.
Pretty good advice.
He says that Lando has eclectic taste. He prides himself on being debonair and someone who appears clean and trustworthy. So he says that he's a little bit more of an over-the-top version of what we get by the time we meet Lando in Empire Strikes Back, but I think that fits him being younger and being a little bit more off the cuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And he says that he's still able to figure out a loophole to pretty much anything, which, touche. I think we would expect that from Lando for sure. Well, moving right along, we also got an introduction to the droid L337. She is mocapped by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's the partner droid to Lando Calrissian, and Joe Kasdan commented that she's a self-modified droid. The idea is that she's sort of a mutt, if you will, of various parts of different kinds of droids who has improved upon herself. So, really cool thing. She has parts of a dome from a primitive BB-8 unit. Her chest and shoulders have an R2 astromech influence. And she's a complete individual in the galaxy and capable of some pretty interesting conversations with her AI way up there in terms of IQ. So, lots of cool things to have our first female droid as a main character.
Yeah.
So, very excited about that. We also have Tobias Beckett, played by Woody Harrelson. Our comments about him, well, he really shapes Han more than anyone, as Han comes to realize that in a lawless time he needs to try to come to terms with some kind of moral code. The Kasdans drew inspirations from his character, from Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, and the mentor-apprentice relationship between Pirate Long John Silver and young Jim Hawkins. They also said that Beckett is a tough criminal who is charismatic and, of course, has a huge impact on Han's life. We also got a small glimpse in the trailer of Val, played by Thandie Newton. Kathleen Kennedy revealed that she's tied to Beckett and that they have been partners for a long time. And Kasdan also revealed that she's not very impressed with Han when she first meets him. Kasdan's comments were, I will say at first glance, she doesn't necessarily have total faith in Han, as a lot of people he meets in his life tend to feel about him. She's a little skeptical of this kid when she meets him, and her relationship with him goes in, I think, an interesting direction. And lastly, as far as new characters go that are highlighted in the interviews with Entertainment Weekly, we have Dryden Voss, played by Paul Bettany. He's said to be a successful crime boss, and he's sort of a combination of class and swagger and real danger. Voss will give us the handsome version of a figure who has found great success by breaking the rules and isn't the kind to get his hands dirty. And Kasdan also mentioned that he's way down deeper into the criminal world than anyone else will meet in the movie. Originally, he was supposed to be played by Michael K. Williams, who I believe he was like a crime boss on Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
Very so talented. hate that he's not in it, but I'm pretty sure that Paul Bettany is going to do a pretty awesome job at being this criminal, this very charismatic criminal.
Yeah,
so
Michael K. Williams, I think, shot really his scenes in the first section of.
Yeah, he wasn't available to come back for reshoots.
Wasn't able to come back, so they had to recast him.
So, who of these are you looking the most forward to? I think on screen.
Well, obviously, Kira, I'm looking forward to. Obviously, just because I feel like I'm a big fan of
Emilia Clarke. Yeah.
She plays a strong woman very well on Game of Thrones. So
yes.
I'm curious to see how she's different in this. I'm a really big Woody Harrelson fan, so obviously I'm excited to see him be kind of the mentor to Han. And they had such good success with K2SO on Rogue One that
you can't help but be a little bit excited for L337.
And obviously, Donald Glover's Lando, but that goes without saying.
Yeah.
I think everybody has gone crazy just for the very brief glimpses. We also have some very cool toys that got leaked that we'll kind of talk about.
We're going to talk about a little bit.
But,
yeah.
I think all this sounds great.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely looking forward to Kira. I think the most at this point, just because I'm telling you, from the minute her costuming was revealed through all of these spots and trailers and everything, I was on board and ready to know more about her. So you guys comment and let us know which one of these new characters are you looking forward to seeing the most. And you can say Han if you want. We did not include Alden Ehrenreich because we talked about him a little bit more last week because we had his interview in time. So yeah, moving right along, in one of our last stories for Solo, is that one of the interviews focused solely on Larry and John Kasdan, our screenwriters. And in that, they just kind of shared several stories that they pulled inspiration from while writing Han's origin story. And I could spend a lot of time on these, but obviously Treasure Island was one. They said that they really wanted to be a story where he encounters characters of dubious intent, and that everyone he would encounter would inform his maturation as an adult. And so that's kind of what happens in Treasure Island in that story. And then, of course, that relationship between Beckett and Han being very similar to Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver. Michael Mann's 1995 heist saga Heat, of course, dealing with the underworld inspiration that we're going to have in this film. We have Unforgiven, which I love. It definitely does have a Western feel to it as you look at this. And so that was definitely a draw in tone, but also for that relationship between Eastwood and the kid. And kind of the question of how Han ends up being the way that he is by the time we see him in A New Hope. Oddly enough, The Big Lebowski, not really one I'm sure I would have been like, okay, yeah. Their comment was, think of Han as the dude stumbling through a film noir he doesn't fully understand, with Chewie as his roaring Walter. So I appreciate that.
I like that.
And they commented that we were trying to create a crime movie where our character was entering a crime world where there were already dramas in place and relationships and complications. And we had to see him negotiate a lot more rivalries than he is expecting at the beginning of our story. And that Solo is going to have a bit of a more off-kilter tone than anything we've seen before in Star Wars, which I could see pretty easily.
Yeah, for sure.
And then lastly, Gangster #1, which is really funny because Paul Bettany stars in that movie as a very smooth criminal. And I think that's where they got a lot of inspiration for Dryden Voss, actually. So, ironic that he ends up playing the character after all. And then lastly, for Solo, we've had some news coming out of D23 in Japan this week, and we talk about that more as we keep on going. But one of those things is that a behind-the-scenes reel for Solo did drop at the event. So something we'll probably have released in the next couple of months.
Yeah, we've heard some rumors about that appearing in some of these other Disney events. So I imagine eventually we'll have that.
Eventually. So. All right, well, moving into Episode 9. In addition to a behind-the-scenes reel from Solo, J.J. Abrams also shared a video at D23. Obviously, they haven't started anything yet, so his was more of a statement that he's far along into the process of pre-production for Episode 9, and that filming will begin this June. So
it's coming up soon.
It is, man. We'll be talking about Episode 9 before we know it. And then also for Episode 9, just a small thing in the grand scheme, but something we wanted to note. We already know they're bringing back Neil Scanlon to do the creatures. And according to Omega Underground veteran art director Paul Inglis will be the lead supervising art director on Episode 9. Inglis' previous work includes Skyfall, Blade Runner 2049, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Prometheus, and Game of Thrones. So definitely someone...
pretty good resume there.
Decent person to have on the team. So with that, we're going to move into more of our miscellaneous movie news, things that don't necessarily line up to any of the things that we currently know are coming. The first is that after the hiring of Weiss and Benioff, some fans have begun to wonder if we'll ever see a woman or a person of color directing a Star Wars project. However, Lucasfilm is already ahead of the game in many ways, with half of their executives being women and the cast members in recent films being more varied than ever before. However, a new rumor reported on Tracking Board suggests that Lucasfilm has already spoken with top-level writers and directors who are either women or people of color. Writer Jeff Schneider has apparently come across a few exchanges suggesting that Lucasfilm is not only looking for new voices to carry the Star Wars franchise forward, but that they've already hired them. So that's a nice twist. We're familiar with Jeff from his appearances on Collider stuff, so pretty cool to hear that.
Yeah.
Jonathan, if they have already hired a female director, who do you think it could be?
I don't know. I think there are a lot of good choices. I really think Ava DuVernay is a possibility.
Yeah.
She has a really good relationship with JJ. She actually had a little bit of input on Episode 7 with some race stuff. I think to me that would be a good choice.
Yeah.
We've already know that they met with
Reed,
yeah.
I think hers is going to be more television related.
Yeah. The thing is I think the sky's the limit on who they can get.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of pushback about Weiss and Benioff, but the thing is they're just writing the project. They're not directing the whole thing
that we know of.
Yeah. So I mean, even with Ryan is writing the first one, but we don't know anything about.
Yeah, he's
film
supposed to be
2 and 3.
constructing the whole trilogy.
So so we don't know who all else is going to be involved in these things.
No, I think Ava DuVernay is probably at the top of their list. We know that she has connections in Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
I think that they're probably waiting for A Wrinkle in Time to come out and see how it does, although I think it's going to be just as brilliant as it looks.
Yeah.
Another person that had been rumored way long ago and wouldn't hurt my feelings at all is Michelle MacLaren, who you're probably not quite as familiar with overall, like, in the world. But she's directed several episodes of Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad and just some of these very successful television shows.
Isn't she doing the Cowboy Ninja
I think so.
thing?
Yeah.
I don't remember what the exact title of that film is.
Cowboy Ninja Viking.
That's it, yeah. There was some
There's your
combination
random trivia for the day.
Chris Pratt's going to do.
But yeah, and I think, whether they've hired them or not, the beauty of it is that they can choose to disclose stuff whenever they want to. And after what all happened with Solo and with Josh Trank way back when and Colin Trevorrow, they're not going to announce things before they have to, which is totally fine.
I mean, we've got Solo coming out. I have a feeling we're going to know how Wrinkle in Time does. We're going to know how Solo does before probably anything else has been announced. And I mean, it is something to consider that, Kathleen Kennedy is in charge of Lucasfilm.
Yeah, I know. People crack me up with this.
So I don't think she's going to be biased against women. It's just one of those things that it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I know
eventually.
So.
Well, in our latest story is that the newest rumor to emerge is that an Obi-Wan standalone film will begin production in Northern Ireland in 2019. This comes from the Belfast Telegraph after George Lucas was spotted in the area, supposedly checking out locations for the long-rumored Kenobi spinoff. Despite the rumor, it should be noted that Lucasfilm has yet to confirm that an Obi-Wan film is officially coming. So, Jonathan, any possibility that this is actually happening?
This possibility that the movie is happening. Is George Lucas doing movie scouting? No. Lucas, it's
People
way
are killing me.
over his pay grade. Location scouting
I'm
is...
like, guys, you know that Lucas sold it, right?
Yeah.
Like they let him on set, like, he gets to be, like, involved in small things, and they use a lot of his inspiration for stuff, but, like, he doesn't own it anymore.
Well, it's kind of like Stan Lee in Marvel movies, Like, Stan Lee is there, and he gets to go do whatever he
Stan
wants.
Lee doesn't
but
go...
Stan Lee is not over in Bangladesh checking out locations.
No, not at all.
So no, it's ridiculous. George Lucas is rich and can do whatever he wants, so I'm sure he's probably in Belfast just to be there.
Yes, exactly.
He's not there, digging around for Obi-Wan locations.
Yeah, now, I mean, the rumor was that Obi-Wan was going to start filming in London in January, and so that would line up as far as, like, on-location stuff in Northern Ireland. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying they're not sending George Lucas to figure it out. So there's that. So we're gonna move right into the small screen because Star Wars Rebels will soon be back.
That is true.
And with that, we've had several new clips I say several. There's been 2 new clips to come out. One of which is the one that you are seeing now, with their plan to go get Hera.
Yep.
Spoiler alert for those of you who are not paying attention to the show, but Hera was captured. So they're going to rescue her. And the other clip that we don't have access to because it's on ABC is Kanan putting Ezra in charge of the mission that he cannot emotionally handle being the one to plan how to get her
we can
back.
assume that it's the scene that happens right before this.
Yeah.
It's a cool scene. However, I do have some questions as to how these glider things work.
Yes.
It just seems like an awful long distance to glide, but granted, my knowledge of gliders is fairly limited.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But it's one of those things that bears question. But it's a very picturesque scene.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I don't understand how those are functioning, but to each their own. Cool, whatever. So we're going to use that as a reminder that Star Wars Rebels returns this Monday, February 19th at 9 p.m. We have 2 episodes back to back. And the 2 clips that we have are both from the first episode titled Jedi Knight, Night, not with a K, which should be noted. Very important distinction in the Star Wars universe.
Yes, very true.
There is that. All right, with that, we're going to move right into the bookshelf. Not too much to talk about here at the moment. Ready for that novelization of Last Jedi to be out, mainly because I'm ready to start reading it. However, in the meantime, I am reading The Legends of Luke Skywalker. I finally started that. I'm a couple of chapters in. I'll say it's fun just because as they're telling the stories, you really don't know what is and isn't true. But in the first story alone, they're having some fun poking at some of the inconsistencies in the film. Yeah. And I just really appreciate something that can point out its faults and laugh at it and use it as a reason as to why people think that all of the Luke Skywalker stuff is a complete hoax with Death Star and everything. Yeah. So, like I said, not very far into it, but it's pretty cool so far. And you have it as a backdrop of on this ship they're headed to Canto Bight with the Father Years, which ties it into Last Jedi, and Finn and Rose's adventures there. So it just sets up some context for that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So, we're about to move into Galaxy's Edge. However, before we get there, if you guys have any questions for us for the show today, just go ahead and start sending them in through the comments, and we will get to them one by one right after we get through talking about Galaxy's Edge and our merchandise. So, big news in Galaxy's Edge.
Yes, big news. D23 Japan was this week, and we've had confirmation that something that we've known that's happening for a while, but we are indeed getting a Star Wars based hotel in Walt Disney World down in Orlando. It's going to be set within the Hollywood Studios property, and the hotel will allow guests to immediately become active citizens of the galaxy and can dress up in the proper attire, which sounds awesome. Obviously, every room apparently is going to have a view of space.
Yep.
Because why not? And apparently, it's also sealing the illusion that you're on a star cruiser departing Earth on your way to Batuu, which is the actual land of Galaxy's Edge. So pretty brilliant, obviously, in the way that they're trying to incorporate all of this in.
Absolutely.
Also, another little kind of tidbit was that there's going to be some specific toys in Galaxy's Edge that are not going to be apparently kind of traditional retail type things.
Right.
So it's going to be sold by Toydarians, which is a alien species from the prequels. And supposedly they're going to be there. I have no idea how that's going to work. I'm assuming animatronics of some sort.
It's Disney. Who knows?
And then this is a look at some of the actual toys that they're going to have.
They're going to have porgs!
You know, of course they're going to have porgs. And actually they're going to have a little Toydarian there as well. So, nice little symmetry. But, yeah, I think this all looks pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really excited about how immersive this is going to be. And I'm sure this hotel experience is going to be ridiculously expensive, like a cruise.
Oh, yes.
But I still want to do it.
Yes.
So.
Yes. It's going to be extremely expensive.
Still want to do it, and I think I want to be Sabine. I think that's who I...
Sabine?
Yeah, I want to go the Mandalorian route.
You know, it's one of those things. It doesn't even really matter how expensive it is.
People will pay.
People will pay for it, and
people like us will pay.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things too that it's brilliant.
I know it is.
You know, and I think it's really could possibly be some big changes in how all these parks operate.
Yeah.
I think if this goes down well, you've heard it here first. I guarantee Universal will come up with something for Harry Potter.
Oh, guaranteed.
If this becomes a success, which I have no doubt that it will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in some ways, Universal kind of spearheaded some of this just with the way they crafted Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley. So, really, they kind of started this. I feel like Disney is taking it a step further with the fact of you're really going to feel like you are no longer in a park, but you are actually on a different world.
Well, it's one of those things, too, that they are using some of the same companies that helped build Hogsmeade and Harry Potter World are actually building Galaxy's Edge. Yeah. So that's another fun point.
Fun fact. Well, speaking of that merchandise we were talking of, that is kind of maybe doing some spoiler stuff in Star Wars. If you don't want to know anything about Solo, just mute us for like a minute, okay? Literally. So Toy Fair is next week in New York, so we have a bit of a preview for some of the toys for Han Solo. This is not so much of a big deal. Like, it revealed the Falcon design from Solo, obviously with the blue markings, and of course that closed nose design. What we were expecting there. However, the new toys from Hasbro are where things start getting a little sticky as far as spoilers go. The Falcon description.
I'm not putting images. So
the Falcon description comes with a confirmation there is a mini ship located in the nose area of the ship, which explains why they are pronged later on. Obviously, something's going to happen to that ship, and I'm sure Lando's not going to love it. Yep. And then also, in non-spoiler territory, Hasbro is releasing their 6-inch Black Series line. That's going to include Han, Lando, Kira, and a range trooper. Sorry, I'm going to let Jonathan show you all these instead of just, whizzing right through them. Although, can we just talk about how cool this range trooper looks?
Yeah, he's got, outfitted here.
Yeah.
Although, I think this Lando figure is my favorite so far.
Yeah, that's because Lando's already awesome. Like, we need any more of a reason to think that.
This is very true.
So, there's that. Some potential spoilers coming up with, Han Solo.
Yeah.
With toys. Be very careful moving forward, everyone.
Yep. I don't think it's going to be a big plot point, but
no,
that will be something probably most people would rather see.
No. For the record, there were toys in the 80s that kind of teased that.
Yeah.
We're just getting confirmation now. Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to move into today in Star Wars History 101, and this is a good one. February 14th, 1997 was the release of The Empire Strikes Back Special Edition. I actually remember going to the theater for this. We went to the I don't know if you remember this or not, but we went to the theater for all 3 of the Special Edition releases.
I seem to have a vague memory of it.
I still have
it's not
somewhere
as strong as yours
Luke Skywalker in his black Jedi outfit, figurine that they were handing out.
Nice. Of course you do.
So, kind of a little cool. The best of the special editions is The Empire Strikes Back.
That's very true.
So.
It is the least changed. Which is why we like it so much. The
least changed. All right. Well, I think that wraps up episode 19 of the Resistance Rundown. Thanks to all of you guys for watching, as always. If you want to check out any of our other material, you can check out the Shot List, which is our weekly movie podcast where we discuss other things other than Star Wars. Check that out. You can also check us out on Instagram and Twitter at ATL_movies and on AboveTheLineMovies.com. I'm sorry, I'm reading comments.
Yeah, no, Micah, we very much appreciate your comment. The memory is strong with this one. Yes. The memory is strong with this one.
For once.
Yeah, normally it's the other way around.
Really all the time.
Props to Jonathan.
If you have an Apple device, you can also check us out on Apple News. So you just search Above the Line and we'll put a heart next to us and we'll appear right in your feed. And also you can always email us at theresistancerundown@gmail.com and just put TRR in the subject line and we'll include that in the next show. And lastly, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at BeachJD.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MCBeach. And Aunt Beth, thank you for tuning in with Parker and Sydney. Hey, Peanut. Hey, Peach. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, until next week.
That's right.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.